Ever wonder why your paycheck disappears faster than you expect? No matter how much you earn, you tell yourself this month will be different. But by week 3, you're dodging your banking app, stressing about bills, and feeling guilty for buying a coffee or ordering takeout. It's not that you're reckless, it's that no one ever taught you how to create a money system that works with your life, not against it. Most budgeting advice feels like punishment. Cut everything, track every penny, and deprive yourself until you hit some vague financial finish line. But what if there was a better way? What if you could manage your money without spreadsheets, without shame, and still have room for joy? That's where the 70-20-10 rule comes in. It's a simple, yet powerful framework that brings clarity to your finances without obsession. 70% of your income goes to living expenses, 20% to saving and investing, and 10% to giving or impact. No more guesswork, no more guilt. Because the truth is, most people don't have a money problem. They have a structure problem. And once you fix the structure, everything changes. This video will show you how to apply the rule and take control of your money once and for all. Let's dive in. Number 1, why most budgets fail. Most people don't struggle with money because they're irresponsible. They struggle because their budgeting system is either too complex or too punishing to stick with. Traditional budgets often break down every dollar into micro categories: groceries, gas, dining, entertainment, miscellaneous, and on and on. While this sounds like it would give you control, what it often does instead is create anxiety, confusion, and burnout. You overspend by $20 in one category and suddenly feel like you failed the whole month. You either give up, start over, or beat yourself up with guilt and shame. It becomes a cycle where money is associated with stress, not empowerment. Underneath it all, there's often an emotional relationship with money, deep patterns tied to fear, scarcity, or self-worth. When you don't have a clear structure, those emotions tend to run the show. Money becomes reactive, not intentional. That's why most budgets collapse. It's not about discipline, it's about design. What you really need is a system that simplifies your decisions, gives you boundaries without micromanaging you, and makes room for real life. That's where the percentage-based approach comes in. Instead of tracking every line item, you align your spending to fixed ratios that keep you balanced. It's structured but flexible, focused but forgiving. And most importantly, it's a system you can actually live with. Simplicity breeds consistency, and consistency is what builds wealth over time. By replacing shame and confusion with clarity and rhythm, the 70-20-10 rule becomes more than a budget. It becomes a lifestyle you can sustain. Number 2, understanding the 70-20-10 rule. The 70-20-10 rule is a simple yet powerful framework for managing your income in a way that supports your life today, builds your future, and gives you the opportunity to make a positive impact. Unlike traditional budgets that break your income into dozens of tiny categories, this rule gives you 3 clear and intentional buckets: living expenses, savings and investing, and giving. The beauty of this system lies in its clarity and balance. First, 70% of your income is allocated toward living expenses. This includes everything you need to function and feel stable: your rent or mortgage, groceries, utilities, transportation, insurance, subscriptions, clothing, and even entertainment and dining out. It's your life money, and within this space you have flexibility. You don't have to feel guilty for spending on coffee or treating yourself occasionally, because it's already accounted for within your 70%. You live within this boundary knowing that everything else, your savings and your giving, are also being honored. Next, 20% of your income goes towards savings and investments. This is where your financial future is built. It includes your emergency fund, retirement contributions, long-term savings goals, and investment vehicles like index funds, real estate, or other wealth-generating assets. This portion ensures that you're not just surviving month to month, but actually moving toward financial independence. Even if you start small, the consistency of putting away 20% of your income begins to compound over time. It gives you a safety net and a strategy. It's the antidote to living in constant financial anxiety, and it shifts your relationship with money from reactive to proactive. The final 10% is designated for giving. This can look different for everyone. It might be charitable donations, helping a family member in need, supporting a community project, or random acts of generosity. This part of the rule is often overlooked in typical budgeting advice, but it's critical, not just financially, but emotionally and spiritually. Giving reminds you that you have enough. It builds a mindset of abundance and interconnectedness, and it helps rewire scarcity thinking. It also reinforces a truth we often forget. Money is a tool, not a god. When you allocate part of your income to giving, you deepen your purpose and align your finances with your values. Let's look at a practical example. Imagine someone earns $3,000 per month. According to the 70-20-10 rule, $2,100 would go to their living expenses. That might mean $1,000 for rent, $300 for groceries, $200 for transportation, $150 for utilities, and the remaining $450 for personal spending and small pleasures. Then $600 would be automatically transferred into savings and investments. Perhaps $300 into a high-yield savings account, $200 into a retirement account, and $100 into a low-cost index fund. Finally, $300 would be used for giving. They might donate $100 to a cause they care about, give $100 to help a struggling friend, and keep $100 for spontaneous generosity. With this simple structure, every dollar they earn has a job. There's no more guesswork or guilt. They get to live well, save wisely, and give intentionally. What makes the 70-20-10 rule so effective is that it meets both your present and future. You're not forced into frugality that steals joy from your life, nor are you spending recklessly and ignoring your long-term well-being. It creates peace of mind, because you know your money is being managed in a balanced way. It empowers you to live with dignity now while building security for later, and it connects you to something greater than yourself through giving. This isn't just a financial framework. It's a roadmap to a life of clarity, freedom, and integrity. Number 3, deep dive, the 70% spending bucket. The 70% spending bucket is where most of your monthly income goes, and it's the part of budgeting that people feel the most emotionally connected to, because it directly affects your daily life. When people hear they can use 70% of their income just for spending, it often comes as a relief. Finally, a system that doesn't shame you for living. But freedom doesn't mean recklessness. Within this bucket, you still need clarity and intentionality if you want your money to work for you instead of against you. That starts by understanding what actually lives inside the 70%. It breaks down into 3 basic types of expenses: fixed costs, variable spending, and flex expenses. The first layer is your fixed cost. These are the non-negotiables you must pay to function: rent or mortgage, utility bills, car payments, insurance, phone plans. These are usually predictable from month to month, and they should ideally take up no more than 50% of your income. If your fixed costs eat up more than that, it becomes harder to balance the rest of your budget. That's why housing decisions are so critical. Living in a place you can barely afford may seem manageable short-term, but it quietly strangles your long-term financial growth. Downsizing, living with roommates, or finding cheaper alternatives can dramatically open up breathing room in your budget. Fixed costs are the foundation. Get them wrong, and everything else feels tight. Next is your variable spending, things like groceries, gas, household items, and personal care. These can fluctuate month to month, but they're still essentials. This is where tracking your spending becomes powerful, not to guilt yourself, but to build awareness. You may think you're spending $300 on groceries, but when you actually add it up, it's closer to $600 because of last-minute takeout or shopping without a plan. Awareness helps you make small adjustments, buying in bulk, meal planning, or using public transit more. That can save hundreds over time without sacrificing quality of life. The goal here isn't deprivation. It's about knowing where your money is going so you can direct it more intentionally. Variable spending is like the steering wheel of your budget. Small shifts can change your entire direction. Then we have flex expenses, or what many people think of as fun money. This includes dining out, Netflix, hobbies, shopping, spontaneous trips, anything that brings joy but isn't essential to survival. This is the category where people tend to lose the most control, especially as their income increases. It's where lifestyle inflation creeps in. the subtle but dangerous habit of spending more just because you earn more. You get a raise and suddenly your Uber rides double, your coffee shop visits triple, and your closet starts growing like a forest. You feel like you deserve it. And maybe you do, but unchecked, this habit silently steals the wealth you could be building. That's why it's so important to practice value-based spending. This means spending on what actually matters to you, not what impresses others or numbs your stress. If you genuinely love a $7 latte and it makes your day better, go for it. But if you're buying it out of habit or social pressure, it's worth reevaluating. Every dollar you spend should feel like a conscious choice, not a reaction. To use the 70% bucket wisely, you need to track not obsessively but consistently. A simple weekly review of your spending can reveal patterns you didn't know existed. Maybe you're paying for 5 streaming services, but only using 2. Maybe you're spending hundreds a month on rideshare apps when a bus pass could cut that in half. These aren't judgments, they're opportunities. The better you know your spending, the more empowered you are to align it with what you actually value. And that's where budgeting becomes less about limits and more about alignment. One person might love spending $200 a month on books and hate dining out. Another might skip the gym membership and invest in cooking classes instead. It's not about cutting joy, it's about defining it for yourself. When you build your lifestyle around what you value, you feel rich no matter your income. That said, sometimes your 70% may feel tight. Maybe you're in a high cost of living area, or your income is still growing. If your expenses are crowding out your ability to save or give, don't panic, but do get creative. Can you renegotiate bills, cancel or pause subscriptions, switch to a more affordable phone plan? Often the biggest difference isn't made by cutting one large thing, but by trimming a dozen small ones. It's the slow leak, not the tidal wave, that sinks the boat. And don't underestimate the power of temporary sacrifice for long-term gain. If you can live lean for a season, build your savings, and stabilize your income, you set yourself up for a future with far more freedom. In the end, the 70% rule isn't about policing your spending. It's about empowering it. When you use this structure, you give yourself permission to live well today while honoring the needs of tomorrow. You create a lifestyle that fits your income instead of one that constantly chases more. And most importantly, you start to see money not as a source of stress or shame, but as a tool you can master. That's where real peace with your finances begins. Number 4, deep dive. The 20% savings and investing bucket. If the 70% spending bucket is about living well today, the 20% savings and investing bucket is all about securing your tomorrow. It's the part of the 70s 20-10 rule that builds the bridge between where you are and the financial freedom you want. Most people struggle with saving and investing, not because they lack the desire, but because they've never had a system that makes it easy. Or they believe it's only for people with 6-figure incomes and financial advisors. But that couldn't be further from the truth. The truth is, wealth isn't built from huge windfalls. It's built from consistency, discipline, and time. And this 20% slice of your income, used wisely, can completely transform your financial future. The first thing your 20% should prioritize is building an emergency fund. Life is unpredictable, and without a financial cushion, any small emergency, like a car repair, medical bill, or job loss, can become a full-blown crisis. Aim for 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses in a high-yield savings account. That way you're not just reacting when life hits hard, you're prepared. And preparation is one of the most underrated forms of peace. The emergency fund isn't about expecting bad things to happen. It's about protecting yourself so that when they do, you don't spiral into debt or panic. It's the financial equivalent of wearing a seatbelt. Once that's in place, your next goal is to invest in your future self. That starts with retirement accounts like a 401k, IRA, or Roth IRA. If your employer offers a 401k match, that's free money. Take full advantage. Even if you can only invest $100 a month, that small seed can grow massively over time. Thanks to compound interest, the earlier you start, the less you actually need to invest to reach your goals. For example, if you invest $200 a month from age 25 to 65, with an average 8% annual return, you'll end up with over $600,000. But if you wait until age 35 to start, you'll need to invest nearly double each month to reach the same number. Compound interest is like planting a tree. The sooner you get it in the ground, the more time it has to grow and bear fruit. And don't worry if you don't understand investing yet. You don't need to be a Wall Street genius to make smart decisions. One of the most effective and low-risk ways to build wealth is through index funds. These are baskets of stocks that track the overall market, like the S&P 500. They're diversified, relatively stable, and historically perform well over time. Unlike picking individual stocks, which can be risky and time-consuming, index funds let you grow your money passively. You can invest through a brokerage account, a retirement account, or even apps that automate it for you. The key is to start, even if it's just $25 a week. Small, consistent steps beat massive, irregular ones every time. Beyond traditional investing, this bucket is also where you can explore passive income strategies. That could be dividend-paying stocks, real estate investments, or creating digital products that sell themselves over time. Passive income isn't magic. It takes upfront effort or capital, but it becomes the engine that earns while you sleep. Imagine the peace of mind that comes from knowing you have money working for you, not just you working for money. That's when your financial strategy evolves from defense to offense. Of course, none of this matters if it's not consistent. That's why automation is your best friend. Set up automatic transfers to your savings and investment accounts the day your paycheck hits. This way, you never give yourself the chance to forget or talk yourself out of it. The money simply moves, and your future self gets paid before your present self starts spending. It removes the emotion and willpower from the equation. And when you remove friction, you build habits that stick. Some people might feel discouraged, thinking, I don't even make enough to save 20%. That's okay. The percentage is a goalpost, not a guilt trip. If you can only do 5% now, start there. The key is to build the muscle of paying your future self, no matter how small the amount. Over time, as your income grows, increase your contributions. What starts as a trickle becomes a stream, then a river. There are countless stories of people who began with humble incomes, teachers, assistants, freelancers, who retired with financial independence because they consistently invested a portion of every paycheck. One woman, a single mom earning under $40,000 a year, started saving just $50 a month into a Roth IRA. She automated it and forgot about it. Over 25 years, that habit turned into a six-figure retirement account. Not because she made a lot of money, but because she made her money work. It's not about how much you earn. It's about what you do with what you earn. That's the power of the 20%. Ultimately, the savings and investing bucket isn't just about numbers. It's about dignity, freedom, and future choices. It gives you options. It gives you security. And it gives you a path forward that doesn't depend on luck or inheritance. When you prioritize your future self, you send a powerful message. I matter. My dreams matter. My future deserves protection. That's a mindset shift that creates real, lasting wealth, not just in your bank account, but in your life. Number 5, deep dive. The 10% giving bucket. At first glance, the idea of setting aside 10% of your income for giving might feel counterintuitive, especially if you're working hard just to make ends meet or trying to build your savings. But the giving bucket isn't just a generous gesture. It's a foundational part of a healthy, wealthy mindset. In fact, many of the most financially secure people in the world, people who've built lasting wealth, consistently practice giving, no matter how much or how little they earn. Why? Because giving rewires your relationship with money. It reminds you that money is a tool, not a measure of worth. It shifts your mindset from scarcity to abundance, from survival to purpose. It's not about losing money. It's about channeling it towards something bigger than yourself. Giving is one of the most powerful declarations of faith in the future. When you give, whether it's to a cause, a person, or a community, you're making a statement. There's enough, I have enough, and I can afford to share. That's the kind of belief that opens financial flow, not just spiritually, but practically. People who give regularly tend to make clearer financial decisions, feel more connected to their communities, and even experience greater levels of happiness. That's not just spiritual talk. There's research to back it. Giving activates reward centers in the brain, lowers stress, and strengthens your sense of meaning. It builds emotional wealth alongside financial wealth. And here's the truth. Giving isn't just charity. It's a vote for the kind of world you want to live in. Every dollar you donate, every act of generosity you extend, it's all a form of influence. You're deciding what values matter. Whether it's tithing to a faith community, supporting mental health initiatives, funding clean water projects, or simply helping a friend in need, that 10% is powerfully intentional. It's how you align your money with your heart. That's when wealth starts to feel deeply fulfilling. Not just as a number in a bank account, but as a legacy you're actively creating. Real-world examples make this principle come alive. One man earning a modest income consistently gave 10% to a local youth shelter. Over the years, his contributions helped launch mentorship programs that changed lives, including his own. Another woman, after years of struggling financially, finally stabilized her income and began tithing to her spiritual community. She shared how that small act of consistency brought her not only peace, but unexpected opportunities, new clients, referrals, and even moments of personal healing. The giving wasn't transactional, it was transformational. It created a sense of alignment and openness that money alone could never buy. Even if money is tight, you can still give creatively. Time is one of the most valuable currencies we have. Volunteering your skills, whether it's tutoring, cooking, graphic design, or emotional support, can have just as much impact as money. Micro-donations, too, are powerful. Donating $5 a month to a cause you believe in still creates movement, energy, and intention. It says, I'm participating, I care. The point isn't how much you give, it's that you build the habit of giving from wherever you are. That consistency compounds, just like savings and investments. Ultimately, the giving bucket isn't just about generosity, it's about freedom. When you give freely, you break the chains of fear and scarcity. You stop clinging and start flowing. You realize that true wealth isn't measured by how much you keep, but by how much you can release without fear. That's when money becomes more than math. It becomes meaning. The 10% giving rule isn't just a financial strategy, it's a soul strategy. One that grounds you, connects you, and keeps your wealth rooted in humanity, not just accumulation. And in a world that often tells us to hoard and hustle, that kind of perspective is not only rare, it's revolutionary. Number 6, customizing the rule. The beauty of the 70-20 self-10 rule lies in its simplicity, but also in its flexibility. It's a framework, not a fixed formula. Life isn't one size fits all, and your financial plan shouldn't be either. This rule is meant to give structure, not stress. That means it can and should evolve with your life stage, financial goals, and circumstances. For instance, if you're currently working to get out of debt, that 20% savings and investing bucket can be temporarily reallocated toward aggressive debt repayment. The key here is that you're still prioritizing your future. You're just doing it by eliminating the financial drag of high-interest obligations. Once the debt is under control, you can gradually shift that portion back into savings and investments. Think of it like financial triage. Stop the bleeding first, then build. On the flip side, if you're in a season of abundance, maybe you've gotten a raise, paid off a major loan, or downsized your lifestyle, you can absolutely adjust the percentages in your favor. Want to save 30% or give 15%? Go for it. The 70-20 self-10 rule is a starting point, not a ceiling. Use it to anchor your baseline, but give yourself permission to lean into your values and vision as your income grows. Then there's the reality that many people face: expenses that already eat up more than 70% of income. Rent is high, groceries cost more, life feels expensive, and it is. If that's your current truth, the solution isn't to shame yourself for not fitting the model, but to use it as a guidepost. Maybe you're spending 85% right now, but your goal is to trim that down. Start small. Cancel one subscription. Meal prep instead of eating out. Refinance a loan. Over time, those adjustments can bring you closer to balance. The real win here is consistency over perfection. Even if your version starts as October 5th, 85 or 80-15-5, you're still building structure into your money, and structure leads to clarity, and clarity leads to control. That's the power of having a simple rule to lean on. To make this practical, Use tools like budgeting apps, YNAB, Mint, Monarch, or Good Budget to track your percentages. Many of these apps let you create custom categories and see your financial breakdown visually. Seeing your money in percentages can be incredibly grounding. It helps you shift from emotional to intentional spending. At the end of the day, the 70-20-10 rule is not about restriction. It's about rhythm. Your rhythm. Let it guide you, not box you in. Number 7, overcoming mental blocks about budgeting. For many people, the word budget triggers anxiety, boredom, or even shame. It conjures up images of spreadsheets, restriction, and failure. That's not just a practical problem. It's a mindset block. Most people don't struggle with numbers. They struggle with the emotions behind the numbers. Scarcity thinking, fear of not having enough, or the belief that money is a source of stress rather than security can all make budgeting feel like punishment instead of power. But here's the truth. Budgeting isn't about saying no to everything. It's about creating a structure that lets you say yes to the things that matter most. The 70-20-10 rule works so well because it offers freedom within structure. You don't need to track every coffee or obsess over minor purchases. Instead, you give every dollar a job ahead of time. 70% for living, 20% for the future, and 10% for giving. That clarity creates space. It turns money into a tool instead of a trigger. But to embrace this, you have to shift your internal script. Budgeting is not a sign that you're failing. It's proof that you're taking yourself seriously. There are powerful myths that keep people stuck. One is that budgeting is boring, but boredom often comes from disconnection. If your budget doesn't reflect your values, of course it feels lifeless. But when your money starts funding your actual dreams, debt freedom, travel, peace of mind, time with loved ones, it becomes deeply motivating. Another myth is, I'll never have enough. This kind of scarcity thinking becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The truth is, enoughness is built by intention, not by luck. The 70-20-10 rule helps you create that intention, one paycheck at a time. And then there's the silent belief, I'm just not good with money. That belief usually traces back to childhood, past mistakes, or a lack of education. But being good with money isn't an identity, it's a skill. Skills can be learned, practiced, and improved over time. To shift your mindset, it helps to go deeper. Try journaling. Ask yourself, what does money represent to me emotionally? Is it safety, power, guilt, freedom? Then ask, what would financial peace feel like in my body? Maybe it's the sensation of being able to breathe fully, sleeping without racing thoughts, smiling when you pay a bill because you planned for it. Money is not just math, it's emotional. Budgeting becomes transformative when you approach it not just as a task, but as a practice of self-awareness. At its core, budgeting is an act of self-respect. It says, I care enough about my future to guide my present. It's not about being restrictive, it's about being responsible, intentional, and empowered. When you make peace with your budget, you make peace with yourself. And when you do that, you stop fearing your money and start directing it. The 70-20-10 rule gives you a map, but the mindset shift is what puts your hands back on the wheel. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are simply building, and that process starts with believing you're worth building for. Number 8, real-life success stories. Sometimes the most powerful way to believe something is possible is to see yourself in someone who's already done it. That's what these real-life stories are about. People who didn't start with a windfall or perfect discipline, but simply chose to follow the 70-20-10 rule and stay consistent. Their paths weren't always smooth, but the results speak for themselves. Take Maya, a 27-year-old graphic designer living in a big city. Like many young professionals, she earned a decent income, but never seemed to have anything left at the end of the month. She wasn't reckless, just unaware. Her spending was a blur of food delivery, weekend trips, and impulsive shopping to ease stress. When she stumbled across the 70-20-10 framework, she was skeptical. It felt too simple, but she was also tired of the cycle. Get paid, spend blindly, feel guilty, repeat, so she tried it. She set up automatic transfers, 20% into a high-yield savings account, and 10% to a small charity she admired. She adjusted her lifestyle to live off the remaining 70%, which meant fewer takeout nights and more meal prepping. At first, it felt restrictive, but within 6 months, she had saved $4,000, more money than she had ever had in her account. She started sleeping better. She said no to things that didn't align with her values and started saying yes to the ones that did. The structure gave her freedom, not just financial, but mental. Then there's the Jackson family. 2 working parents, 3 kids, and a constant sense that they were treading water. Every emergency, a car repair, a medical bill, turned into a crisis. Budgeting always felt like a punishment to them, so they avoided it. But after one particularly stressful month when their account went negative again, they sat down and decided to try the 70-20-10 method. They were surprised by how manageable it felt. They didn't have to track every receipt, just allocate their paychecks according to the rule. They used the 20% to slowly build up an emergency fund. Within a year, they had $8,000 saved. More importantly, they felt in control. Money stopped being a source of constant anxiety. They still took the kids out for ice cream and went on weekend getaways. But it was planned, not panicked. The turning point wasn't about income. It was about clarity, communication, and consistency. And then there's Diego, a 34-year-old engineer who, after achieving some financial stability, realized something was missing. He was saving and spending responsibly, but life felt flat. When he began using the 10% giving bucket intentionally, something shifted. He started tithing to a local youth mentorship program that had helped him when he was younger. He also supported a single mom in his church, with occasional grocery runs and school supplies. It wasn't about the tax write-off. It was about meaning. He said giving gave him a deeper sense of purpose than any investment account ever could. It reminded him that money isn't just numbers. It's a tool to shape the kind of world he wants to live in. Each of these stories is different, but they share one truth. Transformation didn't come from luck or massive changes. It came from structure, patience, and small intentional steps. The 70-20-10 rule gave these people a foundation, a framework that honored both their present and their future. And perhaps most importantly, it gave them confidence. They saw that they didn't need more money to feel secure. They just needed a plan that actually worked for real life. If they can do it, so can you. As we wrap up, remember this: financial success isn't about perfection. It's about progress. The 70-20-10 rule isn't just a budgeting hack. It's a lifestyle system that provides balance between living well today and building a secure, fulfilling future. It's a roadmap to reclaiming control over your money so it doesn't control you. The key to financial peace lies in simplicity and consistency, not in micromanaging every dollar. So take a moment to reflect. Where are you overspending, undersaving, or avoiding the truth about your finances? Maybe it's in small, hidden expenses you didn't notice before, or a fear of setting boundaries around your money. Whatever it is, it's time to face it and make a change. Start by taking one simple step today. Track your spending for a week, set up your 70-20-10 budget, or adjust your categories to fit your current goals. You don't need to be perfect, but you do need to start. Just like any great transformation, it's not about making giant leaps, but taking consistent small actions that build up over time. As you begin this journey, remember this powerful quote: money is a tool. Use it wisely and it will build you a life you love. The power to create a life you enjoy and feel secure in is in your hands. Now it's time to put your money to work for you.